Best Irish music on irishradio.org with Gerry Byrne.
Eddie Gilmore is CEO of the Irish Chaplaincy, established by Irish bishops who sent priests to England with the purpose that they should walk alongside and comfort people who found themselves in a foreign land. Now, during his career, Eddie has lived, worked and shared his life with others, including those on the margins of society, prisoners, travellers and seniors. Eddie has compiled a book of short stories, Looking Ahead with Hope, which skillfully weaves together personal and professional experiences. Now, Mary McAleese, former Irish president, welcomes the book, commenting that the chaplaincy has been a faithful friend to the Irish and led kindly, prayerful leaders, amongst them Eddie Gilmore. She feels his reflections show that what it means to accompany others through life's ups and downs. Eddie, it's great to speak to you once again and introduce you to the programme.
Oh, thank you, Gerry, and it's really good to be back. Thank you so much for having me again.
Now, Eddie, you grew up in Coventry. Your father was a Galway man who arrived in Britain in 1949. Your mother hailed from Newry in County Down. She had a job to come to, working in a railway cafe. Now, you reveal in the book that an extraordinary coincidence attaches to the timing of her arrival.
Yeah, that's right, Gerry. And it's really lovely and sensitively how you kind of summed up the book, a kind of a weaving together of personal and professional stories. I found myself at the Irish Chaplaincy in its 60th anniversary year in 2017. And I didn't know then, but I found out later on when my sister and I were clearing out my mum's house when she sadly had to move into a care home. There was a letter from the British Railways Board dated September 1957, inviting her, giving her a job in Coventry Railway Station Cafe and giving her free rail passage from Belfast. And it was probably in that very month, so she came to England, not only in the very year that the Irish Chaplaincy was founded in 1957, but probably in the very month, September 1957. So it's one of those incredible connections that I kind of became more and more aware of, the more I found it quite incredible that I found myself at the Irish Chaplaincy suddenly in its 60th anniversary year. And if I could say a little bit about how the title for the book came about, Looking Ahead with Hope, I'd been looking for a job. It was towards the end of 2016. I live in Canterbury. I've been part of a fantastic charity called L'Arche for 28 years, but I just needed a change. And I saw a job advert one day that caught my eye, CEO Irish Chaplaincy. It was based in London at the Irish Centre in Camden, but I thought that's okay, not too far from the train station. There was now a high-speed train from Canterbury to St Pancras. And I was really interested in the work that the charity was doing, working with Irish people in prison, working with travellers, working with elderly Irish, and doing various other bits and pieces as well in London and kind of more widely around England. And I was really happy to be invited for an interview, and I gave a 10-minute presentation. And I suggested that the forthcoming 60th anniversary of the organisation was an opportunity to look back and celebrate the great work that had been done, and also to look ahead. And I produced this phrase at the end of my 10-minute presentation, Irish Chaplaincy ... looking ahead with hope. So one of the first things I did was I made a newsletter, and then it appeared and still does appear on our newsletter on the front and back page, Irish Chaplaincy ... looking ahead with hope. And also we had a new website rebuilt in that first year in 2017. And there was a fantastic woman called Rashmi who helped us with the design of that. And I think she knew that I liked writing, and she said to me, it's really important to have lots of regular new content on the website so that people keep coming back. And she suggested that I write a regular blog, and I said, yeah, no, I'd be really happy to do that. So I started to do that in the autumn of 2017. And at first I just sent it to a few people, and then I kind of got a bit bolder and sent it to more and more people. And I kept writing, and it kind of was going out, kind of, the ripples seemed to be spreading out. People were giving me lots of good feedback, so I just kept writing. And then in the first lockdown there last year, I thought, okay, now is the time to try and make this into some kind of book. And one or two people had suggested that as well. One or two people had said, looking forward to the book. So I kind of formed it into a book. It was one of my lockdown projects. And the title had to be Looking Ahead with Hope. And then the subtitle, Stories of Humanity, Wonder and Gratitude in a Time of Uncertainty. There are all kinds of lovely connections and kind of, what we might call coincidences and lots of encounters with a whole range of characters. including, I had the great pleasure of walking on the Camino, the ancient pilgrimage route in the north of Spain to Santiago de Compostela. I started that in 2015. I got chatting with a Spanish man who spoke excellent English, albeit with quite a strong Spanish accent. And I was sure I could hear a bit of Irish in there. I said, how did you learn English? He said, I'm married to an Irish woman for 40 years. We live in Ibiza. I said, where's your wife from? He said, Northern Ireland. I said, where in Northern Ireland? In County Down. Where in County Down? He said, Newry. I said, my mum's from Newry. And I gave him a bit more information. I gave him my mum's maiden name, McStay, and, some details about where she'd lived. And I bumped into him again the next day. And he said, I called my wife last night. We speak every night. Her first question is always, did you meet anyone Irish on the Camino today? And she knew a Pat McStay, who was a butcher in the town. I said, yep, that's my Uncle Pat. And also in my first year at the Camino, at the chaplaincy, I was at a fundraising conference. I met a guy called Rory. And it turned out his dad was also from Newry, and it turned out his dad also knew my Uncle Pat. And I called my mum that night and I told her, and she said, sure, the whole town knows Pat.
Right, excellent. Now, you in 2017, when you started, you were interviewed for the role, and a phrase you used at the interview became a type of mission statement, and aptly is the book's title, suggested by your colleague Paul Raymond.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Yeah, as I say, so I came out with this phrase, looking ahead with hope, and it became, it's on our newsletters, it's on our literature, it's on the homepage of our the new website we got built in 2017. And it was Paul who suggested that the book really had to be called Looking Ahead with Hope. I had toyed with the idea, coming back to this story, meeting the man on the Camino, the Spanish man whose wife was from Newry and knew my Uncle Pat. Just after that, I met another Spanish man just by chance. I mean, in inverted commas, by chance, by taking a bit of a detour. He was a local man. He wasn't actually a pilgrim. And I managed to explain to him in Spanish the story about meeting this guy whose wife was from Newry, who knew my Uncle Pat. And he said to me, El mundo es un pañuelo, which means in Spanish, the world is a handkerchief. It's quite a well-known expression in Spanish, meaning it's a small world, the world's a handkerchief. So I was at one time thinking of calling the book The World's a Handkerchief, because I was having so many of these amazing, interactions with people and, unearthing these incredible connections. But no, in the end, as suggested by one of my wonderful colleagues, Paul, at the Irish Chaplaincy, the title really had to be Looking Ahead with Hope. And I think, I think it's a really good title. And it kind of seems to speak to people, particularly at the moment. We've had a crazy, kind of 18 months with the pandemic, and I think perhaps more than ever, people are needing to look ahead with hope.
Indeed so. Now, we've spoken many times on the show, Eddie. It's been informative, but time is always limited. I'm delighted your book gives an insight into the impact of your work and also what shapes you as a person. Now, harsh realities of life aren't ignored, but you balance this out. Now, you vividly describe visiting prisons where you don't see it as your place to pry into why people are there. Your team are accepted, and on visits you arrange for favourite meals like bacon and cabbage to be served. Also, you hand over your guitar to those locked up by making the point that the instrument was a gift to be shared.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was the very first time I took my guitar into a prison. That was in Wormwood Scrubs, probably in 2017. I think my first year at the chaplaincy. There was a traveller forum, so I was going to sing a few Irish songs to the guys, and then we were going to have a bacon and cabbage meal. I started to sing. I did a couple of songs, and it was such an appreciative audience. And interestingly, I've done a fair bit of performing in the past. There's often a lot of nervousness around it. Never quite sure of the crowd you're going to get. But it's always such an appreciative audience, in a prison. And then one guy said, "Hey, I really like your guitar." So it was given to me by a complete stranger. I happened to be in Los Angeles in 1995 with my guitar, which got stolen. So I was there with an empty guitar case. I won't tell all the details, but a Korean man who we met by chance said, "I want you to have my guitar," and it's the most beautiful, ornate ovation guitar. I mean, it must be. I've no idea how much. It must be incredibly expensive, but. But the guy in Wormwood Scrubs prison, they said, "I really like your guitar. I was a sessions musician on the outside. Could I possibly have a go?" I said, "Yeah, of course you can." So he strode up. I willingly handed it over, and he played really well. I mean, he was a really good player. There was great banter from the rest of the guys, saying, fair play to you, and can you sing a bit? We can't hear you. And it was lovely, and I enjoyed it, and he enjoyed it. And Breeder, one of the team, one of the wonderful team, that I work with, said to me afterwards, it's really important that you just, the fact that you gave it to him so gladly and willingly will have just been, meant the world to him.
Lovely. Now, touching.
And I said to her, yeah, and I said, yeah, Breeder, that guitar was a gift, and gifted to be shared.
Well, indeed, lovely thought on it. Now, touchingly, you talk about gratitude for your mother's care for you and celebrating her 90th birthday together. Now, on the other hand, a disturbing statistic you give us that there are 20,000 elderly Irish living alone in London, yet the book includes uplifting accounts of where your staff and volunteers enjoy interaction with this community, with positive stories of how people who felt isolated are enjoying life again. Can you give us an example?
Yeah, one example really. There's a woman called Mamie Richardson. She just turned 90, so I had the great pleasure of being at Mamie's 90th birthday party very recently. Mamie was born in Limerick, grew up mainly in Dublin, came over to London on her wedding night with her husband Nicholas, who died sadly about 15 years ago. And Mamie had a really hard time, after the death of her beloved husband. Wasn't going out of the house at all. She'd had some contact with the Irish Chaplaincy already, and more contact after that. She really enjoyed her visits from the Irish Chaplaincy. The Irish Chaplaincy basically were able to kind of get help her to get her life back, really, after the death of her husband. She started going out again. She started going back to a day centre. It was her. One of her ambitions was to be able to travel over to Ireland to see her then two elderly sisters. One of them has died subsequently. So with the help of the Irish Chaplaincy team, someone was able to get her to Heathrow Airport, get her on the aeroplane, have her met at the other side, and she was able to meet her sisters. And now if I could add a wonderful story, it's a kind of a COVID story, really. One of our new projects during COVID, to help people who were already isolated and were probably going to become even more isolated, we started to develop pre-programmed electronic tablets to the Irish elders that we support. So people were saying they'd really like to be able to go to Mass, online. So they press here to go to Mass, press here for your favourite Irish radio station, which we've got programmed here, or press here for a face-to-face, conversation online with one of the team. And Mamie was one of the first people at the start of the first lockdown last year to get one of the tablets. She took to it. She'd never used a computer in her life, which was the case for most of the people who'd got one of the tablets. But she really took to it and saw the possibilities. She wanted to join Facebook. She said, I can call my local parish priest in North London, in Archway. And she said, when it's my sister's 100th birthday, I'll be able to call her with this tablet, it was in September, just 2 months ago. So I saw the most wonderful picture one day of Mamie sitting at her tablet. Her sister, she's a religious sister as well as Mamie's, birth sister, in Dublin, on her 100th birthday, seeing the picture, the image of her sister Mamie, her beloved sister, appearing on the screen. So I wrote a piece after that, keeping connected across the Irish Sea, and it was so touching. And I listened to a little bit of the what Mamie said, and she said, I wish I could be there with you, but I love you. I always have, and I always will. And the staff, her sister in Dublin is in a care home for retired sisters, and they said it just meant the world to her to see the image of her sister appear, and that was Mamie. That was Mamie, someone who'd never used a computer before, saying, this is what I can do, this is what I am going to do, and it's what she did do, and it was just so incredibly touching.
Now, central to our programme is music and entertainment. You two get great joy from music. You've been quoted as saying it has the power to transport people maybe to a time of fond memories that become animated, and it cuts through all cultures.
Oh, absolutely. And I was telling this story. We had a wonderful launch event yesterday for the book, and I was telling this story about. It was probably one of my last visits. I think this must have been Christmas 2019, so it's kind of, a few months before the pandemic started. I used to go into a care home in West London where there were several elderly Irish people, people in the various kind of stages of dementia, but a very international group as well. There was one lovely old lady from Colombia who in her kind of latter years she'd kind of reverted completely to her mother tongue of Spanish. And I used to go in and sing Irish songs, and everyone loved it, but there was one woman who was very particularly kind of almost kind of closed in on herself. It was very difficult to kind of communicate with her. And I'd done a few Irish songs, and I went into a bit of a Christmas set. I did some Christmas songs, and I sang Jingle Bells. And I was telling yesterday, at this book launch, how this lady who just seemed completely closed in on herself, her body started to move. And she, in time to the music, Jingle Bells, and you're right, the power of music to kind of touch people into precious memories and transport people to a different place, I think there's almost nothing like music to do that, how it can transport us decades, instantly into, hopefully good memories, so that was a particularly special memory of the power of music. But there have been so many, and it's such a pleasure and a privilege for me to be able to use music in my work, and to see the joy that it brings and how it can bring people together. That's whether people in a care home or people in a prison. How people are kind of, it's one of the things that unites us in our common humanity, I think, music. And food is another thing. And I talk about food in the book, the importance of sharing food, alongside the importance of sharing music. As I say, it's one of those ways in which we kind of share our common humanity with people and, share our joy. And, it's one of the things, what it is to be most deeply human.
Indeed. Now, the chaplaincy is forward-facing and vibrant. Nora Mulready of the Irish Elders and Gerry Malumley, our friends of our show, they and others encouraged you to take forward your ideas about concerts at St James's Church in Piccadilly. They were a success, Eddie.
Oh, a great success! Yeah, I'm old friends with Lucy Wingate, who's the rector at St James's. We worked together back in 1992, and Lucy sang at my wedding. And she'd made the suggestion. We'd been talking about fundraising today, one day, and she said, "Oh, we can maybe help you do a bit of fundraising. Why don't you have a concert in the church?" So we did the first one, and we did two in person, and we had some fantastic performers. We had Eilish Byrne Wheelahan brought the London Celtic Youth Orchestra, who are absolutely fantastic. So they performed each time. We went online, which you'll probably remember from February. We called it a fireside gathering concert. But we're going to be back in person in St James's Church, Piccadilly, in February. The London Celtic Youth Orchestra will be there. We'll have Thomas McCarthy, the Traveller, singer and songwriter and musician, and various other really talented people. The Irish Elders Choir have performed with us before. I'd love it if I haven't been able to do it. I haven't had a chance to ask them yet. I hope they'll, I know they've just started rehearsing again. I know a lot of people are very cautious kind of coming out of COVID, but it's been lovely having them on stage with us in the past. They also performed, the Elders Choir performed with us in one of the most memorable prison visits I ever did in Wormwood Scrubs Prison, when we got the whole choir in to sing to a group of travellers. And then Nora Mulready, who's fantastically talented, choir director amongst many other things, invited the guys up to, and the encore was the Elders Choir in their emerald green tops with the group of young traveller guys in their mainly kind of grey kind of sweatshirts and tops, singing a song at the end. It was I think they did "Dirty Old Town." And I was sitting next to one of the prison staff at the time, and who said to me, "This is one of the most incredible things I've ever seen," and it was.
Indeed. Now, on a prison visit, entertaining inmates, a Polish man loved the Irish music and banter. He said he felt Irish at heart. Now, you're blessed with a lovely family yourself. Your wife is from Korea. When you lived there, you visited a temple and saw mothers giving up offerings for exam success for their children, just as Irish mothers do, lighting candles and saying novenas. Now, you've commented that we're united in our humanity. We're all citizens of the world.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that was. Yeah, I had the great pleasure of spending a year in Korea with the family, 1990 to 2000. So we went with our 3 children when they were very young, before they started school, and wonderful, wonderful experience, and kind of helped me to understand him soon, my wife, better. The experience for her of living in a very different culture. It really is. Really is different. But yeah, as you say, that there's so much that there's probably far more that unites us than divides us. Yeah, I was at a temple not far from where we lived. It was in woods. Temples tend to be in woods on the top of mountains or hillsides, in really beautiful places. Absolutely beautiful architecturally. Vibrant colours and made out of wood and very still. But kind of lots of incense statues. I mean, as someone born and bred a Catholic, there was so much that was actually similar. And as I say, one day, they're normally pretty empty. There aren't many people in there normally, but one day it was full of middle-aged women who were doing a lot of bowing. And I found out it was the day that the high school students were doing their university entrance exam. So, so they were in there, doing the bowing and the praying and making a little offering to the temple besides, for their offspring to do well. And yeah, I make the point in the book. It's not very different from what my own mom did when I was coming up to exams. Not the bowing though, but plenty of novenas and probably a little offering as well to the church.
Indeed. Now the book is extremely entertaining. Passages where you describe connections you've come across on your travels are fascinating, but maybe as more and more occur, you're finding them less surprising.
That's right, and this was, I think this was a particular experience of walking on the Camino in Spain. That there were so many incredible things happen on the Camino. I almost got to the point of expecting the unexpected, expecting incredible things. So it was possibly a lesson for me in kind of, these incredible things and these incredible connections that kind of bind us all together, that they're probably there around us all the time, but a lot of the time we're kind of maybe too busy or too stressed or too preoccupied to kind of notice. So it's kind of the importance of, I suppose you've got to be in the right place at the right time, but it was a kind of learning for me to try and have a kind of an attitude of kind of presence, but also to give thanks for things as they happened, because there are such a lot of incredible things happen around us. Each day is such a gift. The fact that the sun rises each morning and goes down at night, and the seasons change. It's such a miracle to look in the garden, and there are miracles happening all around us if we just kind of take the time to stop and to kind of observe and to see and to hear and then to give thanks for that, for those little miracles.
A book to dip into, and it's priced at just $9.99, a meaningful Christmas gift for friends and family. It has depth and is thought-provoking, but there's a great deal of humour and joy in it. Now, what motivated you to draw together items from your website, blogs and letters into this one collection?
I think it's always been a bit of a dream for me to have a book, to write a book. And then really from the start of writing the blogs, I was deliberately kind of there were certain common themes that were running through them. So although the pieces in the book, the chapters, they can be read as kind of distinct, separate chapters, but there are also certain, many threads that run through them. So there's both a chronology and a kind of, there are certain stories that run through, so it makes sense as a kind of as a complete whole. And I was conscious from the start of writing the blogs that one day maybe it'd be nice to kind of create this into some kind of whole book. And I had no idea originally, what that book might look like, what it might be called, where it might start, where it might end. But it kind of came together, and during the lockdown, I thought, now is the time. I had a bit more time. I wasn't needing to commute to London. I especially had more time in the early morning when I particularly like to write. So that time when I'd normally be getting ready to, go off down to the station and get the train and, make my sandwich and, be worrying about what I need to bring for the day. I had that those early morning hours to kind of really, to do a bit of work on the book and to really kind of, to really do the final weaving together of it and into a complete whole, and to find a place to start and a place to finish as well.
Indeed,
and that's really, I was delighted with how it kind of turned out, and and I've had some lovely comments already from people who've read it.
Excellent. No, it's a perfect stocking filler. Looking Ahead with Hope is a collection of stories of humanity, wonder and gratitude in a time of uncertainty. It's priced, as I mentioned earlier, just $9.99, available from publishers Darton, Longman and Todd. You can follow the link on our website, irishradio.org, or order from bookshops. Now, the content is rich and uplifting and relevant indeed to our times. Eddie, thank you very much for sharing the details. I wish you every success with the publication.
Oh, thank you, Gerry. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. Thank you so much.
My lonely prison wall, I heard a young girl calling. Michael, they have taken you away. For you stole Trevelyan's corn, so the young might see the morn. Now a prison ship lies waiting in the bay. Low lie the fields of Athenry, where once we watched the small free birds fly. Our love was on the wing, we had dreams and songs to sing. It's so lonely round the fields of Athenry. By lonely prison wall, I heard a young man calling. Nothing matters, Mary, when you're free. Against the famine and the crown, I rebelled, they cut me down. Now you must raise our child with dignity. Low lie the fields of Athenry, where once we watched the small free birds fly. Our love was on the wing, we had dreams and songs to sing. It's so lonely round the fields of Athenry. By a lonely harbour wall, she watched the last star falling, as that prison ship sailed out against the sky. So she'll live in hope and pray for her love in Botany Bay. It's so lonely round the fields of Athenry. Low lie the fields of Athenry, where once we watched the small free birds fly. Our love was on the wing, we had dreams and songs to sing. It's so lonely round the fields of Athenry. So lonely round the fields of Athenry.